Okay, so how was your experience of following the listening method this morning?
I thought it was quite good, actually. I was pleasantly surprised.
Me too.
It went quite well, and I thought, because normally if you play a listening over and over and over again, the students get really sick and tired of it.
Yeah.
But actually, they needed that, and whenever I said, okay, this is the final one, it wasn't like they didn't seem like,
was
oh,
like, thank
no.
God.
Yeah, exactly. They were like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I had the really same thing. I was really quite nervous about playing the same thing 6 times. But they wanted it more and more and more, but they reached a kind of level where they couldn't take any more in. But they were so responsive to it, and once they kind of got into the routine of the changing pairs, discussing, and then the sort of automatic, when they finished, would close their eyes, like shut down, preparing to listen again.
Yeah.
So they were really responsive to it, and I found that there was a definite scale in what they were able to understand the more times they listened and focused in, and the more times they negotiated.
Yeah.
Did you find the same thing happened, or do you think?
No, definitely. There's definite increase in understanding, and it was funny because they every time they're like, oh yeah, close your eyes. Oh, new partner, change partner. They knew exactly what they were going to do.
Yeah, they get into the routine.
However, what was interesting, I think, was that the things that they understood weren't actually the things that I questioned them on at the end.
Okay.
So my questions, from what I had taken from the listening, were actually really difficult for them at the end. So they understood quite a lot, but actually, yeah.
So do they understand more generally, or were they weren't able to pick out specific detail?
I think it was more general. And whenever they were talking to their partner, they were like, oh yes, it's about 2 guys, and this guy, this is what he's doing.
Okay, that's really interesting.
Yeah, they were quite...
Because mine started off at that very basic level as 2 people talking, and then as the more times they listened, the more finer details they were pulling out and sharing with each other. So by the 6th listen, I'd made notes as I was listening, and they were focusing in on all the same things that I'd made notes on. I don't know why it happened like that, but it just did.
Yeah. Did you ask them questions?
We did a very sort of brief, for the students who were a bit anxious that there wasn't a task where they had to like sit down and know the answer. So I only have one student like that. The rest were just quite satisfied when we said, okay, tomorrow we're going to work on the language. And they were quite satisfied with that, and we took a break straight away afterwards, so it sort of cut it off. And so we just did a sort of very sort of quick Q&A on the things that they were quite anxious that they should know the answer to or not, you know. Yeah. But generally they were just quite responsive. They were like, okay, well that's it, and we move on, open the blinds and switch the light back on.
I didn't have a blind.
Oh no! Oh, that's it. The whole thing's ruined.
Did they laugh at the beginning with the relaxing and?
A little bit, but only one of them, a Japanese girl who was sort of culturally quite cautious, and she's a bit like, actually, why am I doing this? A little bit nervous. The rest of them were just like, oh, brilliant, close my eyes. And really enjoyed it. Yeah. And it was really interesting seeing them so focused on something that wasn't put your head down, listening, right or wrong answer. Yeah. Yeah. So, carry on.
I think at the beginning, my students were a little bit like, what are we doing? Kind of thing, and I had some older ladies who didn't really like closing their eyes and kept one eye open, looking at me, making sure everything was okay. But actually, the more that they did, the more they got into it, and the more involved they got, and they were actually really, really focused. Yeah. And wanted to know, and actually changing partner, I think, really, really helped that.
Definitely, and that helped with the negotiation of understanding. It's like, oh no, you had 15. Oh, I had 50. Yeah. And then and they were like, play it again, play it again. You need to know. So it's really good, and they were quite excited about tomorrow. Kind of when I said that we'll look at it again. Yeah.
Some of mine didn't really care about if we were going to look at it again, and then others actually were like, oh, are we going to look at this? Are we going to look at the language? Yeah. And things.
So I think that'll be really exciting. So yeah, I'm looking forward to tomorrow, and I think it was an all-round positive experience. Yeah. And from like a teacher's perspective, it was nice to be outside of it.
Yes.
There was only about 2 occasions where they asked me for language input, and the rest of the time they were just sort of quite happy for me to not be involved at all. And I think they enjoyed that sort of almost like autonomous approach to learning. So
and it was like they weren't afraid because they weren't expecting me to come in and go, okay, what did you understand?
Yeah, exactly.
All these questions.
And there wasn't like an overriding task of right or wrong.
Yeah.
Excellent. So let's catch up again tomorrow.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.